The observation deck of the celestial horizon hummed with the usual cacophony of 100 different species going about their business. Alax, a Voranian engineer with crystalline skin that refracted the starlight into dancing rainbows, stood before the reinforced viewport, mandibles clicking in frustration. "It's impossible," he muttered for the 7th time that cycle, his three-fingered hands gesturing at the holographic display hovering before him. Absolutely impossible. The problem was simple to state but apparently impossible to solve. A critical stabilizer rod in the ship's quantum drive had been damaged during their passage through an ion storm. The rod was made of neutronium-7, the hardest substance known to galactic civilization, a metal so dense and unyielding that it could withstand the pressure inside a collapsing star. It was also completely inflexible. You couldn't bend it, shape it, or mold it. You could only manufacture it into its final form in specialized facilities that cost more than most planets' annual GDP. And now their rod was stuck. Not broken, stuck, jammed at a 15-degree angle in its housing, preventing the quantum drive from engaging. They were stranded in deep space, 3 weeks from the nearest station, with no way to call for help thanks to the same storm that had caused the problem. "The calculations are clear," Alax continued, pulling up schematics that filled the air with glowing blue lines. "We need to shift the rod exactly 4.7 centimeters to realign it with the housing. But neutronium-7 cannot be bent. It cannot be heated. It cannot be chemically altered. We would need a force equivalent to a small sun to even attempt it, and such force would destroy the ship." Captain Vorsch, a 6-armed Caltharian with burgundy scales, drummed 4 of her hands on the railing. "So we're dead in the water because of 4 centimeters. "Essentially, yes." "What about cutting it out and replacing it?" "The rod is molecularly bonded to the drive chamber. Cutting it would release enough energy to vaporize this entire section of the ship." Alax's crystalline skin flickered with colors that indicated deep distress. "I've run every simulation. There is no solution." A voice from behind them cut through the despair like a knife through vacuum. "Mind if I take a look?" They turned to see Anya Chen, the human engineer who had joined their crew at the last station. She was small compared to most species aboard, barely reaching Alax's shoulder, with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that seemed to constantly analyze everything around her. She'd been quiet during most of the voyage, observing more than participating, which had suited the rest of the crew just fine. Humans were new to the galactic community, and their reputation for unpredictability made many species nervous. "I suppose it couldn't hurt," Captain Vorsch said with a resigned sigh, "though I'm not sure what you could see that Alax has missed. He's the finest engineer in this sector." Anya approached the holographic display, her eyes scanning the data with an intensity that made Alax's skin flush violet with embarrassment. She said nothing for several minutes, rotating the 3-dimensional model, zooming in on specific components, pulling up material specifications. "Neutronium-7, she murmured. Mohs hardness off the scale, tensile strength measured in yottapascals, 0 ductility." She looked up at Alax. "You're right that we can't bend it. That would require restructuring the molecular lattice, which is impossible without stellar-level forces." "Exactly," Alax said, feeling slightly vindicated. "But we don't need to bend it," Anya continued, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We just need to move it. The rod is jammed." "In the housing, yes, but the housing itself isn't made of neutronium-7, is it?" She pulled up the specifications for the drive chamber. "It's titanium carbide composite, strong but not in the same league. What if we don't try to move the rod through the housing? What if we move the housing around the rod?" Alax's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Voranian equivalent of a confused blink. "But the housing is integral to the ship's structure. Moving it would require shifting the entire—" He stopped, his skin cycling through colors so fast it looked like a malfunctioning display. "The entire drive assembly." which weighs approximately 400 metric tons according to these specs, Anya said. Difficult, but not impossible. We'd need a lever. Captain Vorsh's primary arms crossed over her chest. A lever, to move 400 tons. What would you use as a fulcrum? And what could serve as a lever arm strong enough to? She stopped, following Anya's gaze back to the holographic display. No. Yes, Anya said, her smile widening. That's insane, Alax breathed. It's practical, Anya corrected. We have a 3-meter rod of the strongest material in the known universe, already positioned at an angle that puts it partly outside the housing. We can expose more of it by carefully removing the non-critical paneling around the drive. Then we use the rod itself as our lever arm. But what would serve as a fulcrum? Vorsh asked, and the force required. The fulcrum can be a reinforced bracket welded to the deck plating. We position it about 1/3 of the way along the rod's exposed length. That gives us a mechanical advantage of roughly 3-to-1. Anya's fingers danced through the holographic interface, sketching out her plan. As for force, we don't need to lift all 400 tons. We just need to shift the assembly 4.7 centimeters. With the lever properly positioned, 6 crew members with hydraulic jacks at the far end of the rod could generate sufficient force. Alax was running calculations faster than he ever had in his life, his biocomputational matrix working overtime. The stress on the rod itself, but it's neutronium-7, it could support the weight of a mountain without deformation. He looked up, his skin now a brilliant gold, the Voranian color of revelation. By the celestial archives, it could actually work. But humans couldn't have known about neutronium-7 until they joined the galactic community 3 cycles ago, Captain Vorsh said slowly. This principle you're using. A lever. Oh, we've known about levers for about 5,000 years. One of our ancient philosophers, Archimedes, once said, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I will move the world." Anya shrugged. We've been using simple machines since we lived in caves. Just because something is high-tech doesn't mean the solution has to be. Over the next 12 hours, the crew executed Anya's plan with a precision that would have impressed any military operation. They carefully removed panels around the drive assembly, exposing more of the jammed neutronium-7 rod. They welded a massive bracket to the reinforced deck plating, using every structural engineering principle to ensure it could bear the load. They positioned hydraulic jacks, tools considered primitive by galactic standards but perfect for this application, at strategic points. Anya supervised every step, her human eyes catching details that others missed, her instincts for mechanical advantage, honed by a species that had bootstrapped themselves from stone tools to starships in the blink of an evolutionary eye. Finally, everything was in place. The rod extended out like a giant arm, the fulcrum positioned precisely, the hydraulic jacks ready to push. All teams ready, Captain Vorsh's voice echoed through the engineering bay. Confirmations came back from 6 different crews, each at their hydraulic jack stations. These were large, industrial units used for moving cargo containers, but they'd never been asked to do anything like this. Alax, monitor the drive assembly, Anya instructed. The moment we hit 4.7 centimeters of movement, we stop. Any more and we might create a new problem. Understood, Alax replied, his eyes fixed on the sensor array. On my mark, Anya said, her hand hovering over the control panel. 3, 2, 1, mark. The hydraulic jacks engaged with a synchronized hiss. The rod, 3 meters of the universe's strongest material, began to move. Not bending, not flexing, but rotating around the fulcrum point like the hand of a cosmic clock. Inside the drive chamber, something groaned. Metal scraped against metal. The entire 400-ton assembly, following the laws of physics that applied equally to every corner of the universe, began to shift. 1 centimeter, Alax reported, his voice tight with tension. The deck plating beneath the fulcrum creaked but held. The welds glowed but didn't fail. The Neutronium-7 rod, unbreakable and unbendable, did exactly what it had been designed to do. It held firm under impossible stress. 2 centimeters, 3. Captain Vorsch watched with all three of her eyes wide, her multiple hearts pounding a staccato rhythm. 4 centimeters, 4.5. Anya's finger hovered over the stop button, her entire focus on Alax's readouts. 4.7. Stop, Anya commanded, hitting the emergency cutoff. The hydraulic jacks disengaged immediately. The rod settled into its new position with a sound like a bell chime. For a moment, everything was still. Then Alax's console lit up like a festival display. Alignment achieved. The rod is perfectly positioned in its housing. Quantum drive responding to diagnostics. We have full functionality. The engineering bay erupted in cheers, or the equivalent across a dozen different species. Captain Vorsch's scales flushed a celebratory green. Alax's skin cycled through every color of joy in the Voranian spectrum. Anya simply smiled, wiping her hands on her work coveralls as if she'd just finished changing a light bulb. Later, as the celestial horizon hummed back to life and began its journey to the nearest station, Alax found Anya in the observation deck, watching the stars slide past. "I wanted to thank you," he said, his crystalline skin a warm amber, "and to apologize. I was so focused on the impossibility of bending Neutronium-7 that I couldn't see past it. Your solution was elegant." "It was simple," Anya corrected gently. "Sometimes the best solutions are. You were thinking like an advanced engineer trying to solve an advanced problem. I was thinking like a human who's been moving heavy things with simple tools for millennia. We're really good at leverage, both the literal and metaphorical kind." "Your species is quite remarkable," Alax said. "We built Neutronium-7 to be unbreakable, and you used that very property against the problem. You turned its greatest strength into the solution." "That's what humans do," Anya said with a shrug. "We adapt, we improvise. We look at what everyone says is impossible and ask, but what if we try anyway? It's gotten us into a lot of trouble over the years, but it's also how we got here, among the stars, among you." She turned to face him fully. "The galaxy spent centuries perfecting Neutronium-7, making it the hardest substance imaginable. You made it so strong that you forgot it could still be useful in simple ways. Sometimes the most advanced tool is just a really good stick." Alax's mandibles clicked in amusement. A really good stick that could support a planetary mass. "Exactly," Anya grinned. "Give a human the strongest stick in the universe and we won't try to break it. We'll figure out what we can move with it." As they stood together watching the quantum drive push them faster than light toward home, Alax made a note in his personal log. The galactic community had been studying humans for 3 cycles now, trying to understand what made them unique. Some pointed to their adaptability, others to their pack-bonding tendencies, still others to their alarming capacity for both creativity and violence. But Alax thought he'd found something more fundamental. Humans didn't just solve problems, they reframed them. They looked at obstacles not as walls but as puzzles. They took the rules of the universe and found the loopholes, the unexpected applications, the solutions that technically counted. The galaxy had created the toughest metal in existence and declared it unbendable. A human had looked at it and seen a lever. And with that lever, she'd moved their world.